Firstly, I gotta say, many my bads. Very much sorry for the last video. It was kind of a train wreck. So many glitches and frame drops. I ended up watching a little bit of it towards the end of it after I made it last time, and just realized how rough it was. Oh my gosh. So I'm really sorry about that. Obviously, I'm not trying to go for the YouTube of the Year award or anything like that. But I realized, that I had switched to a newer version of OBS. I had lost a lot of settings. Things weren't set up right, and it was using a ton of CPU. Plus, I had my CPU throttled, mainly to keep the fan down, and also I like the challenge. Often I do this where I keep the CPU, throttled down to just about nil, and try to build using that. So we can see here with my CPU all the way up, we get these spikes, and I think a lot of that has to do with OBS recording all this at the same time. So I got the new version. I tweaked OBS a lot, and hopefully did a few tests, and hopefully got it back to the spot where we want it to. And I also went out and borrowed a headphones with a little microphone headset, and this has worked wonders along with some filters in OBS. There's some noise gate limiter and a noise suppressor, which gives the voice a little bit of a sort of tweaky noise suppressed quality, little like MP3 compression chirps, but it's not super bad. And I think the gains are much better as far as the quality of the vocals, as far as I can tell in the tests that I've done. So all in all, this is good. I think I should have obviously gotten a headset microphone type of situation going on from the very beginning, but I wasn't actually embarking on this whole quest in the beginning to, set out to do some high quality thing, to hopefully get a bunch of likes, to hopefully, get money or fame or whatever a lot of YouTubers, kind of want to go for. It's all about the likes, right? Well, I don't care if anybody likes this stuff. If nothing else, hey, you didn't pay anything for it, and you got some free, Ableton session files with some racks. I went ahead after the last one, and I organized some of these into folders. So I'm going to keep adding to these folders. At some point, I want to go back through all of these sketches and kind of comb through them and make racks out of them, just for ease of access, for my ease of access, because I'm finding that having these here, this set of stuff, is making it really easy to have some starting points. And so I think for now I'm gonna probably nix the whole concept of at least when I'm on this here MacBook Pro laptop, not throttling the CPU. But I am going to continue on with bringing over stuff from the previous sketch. And as you can see here, we've got like the entire previous sketch. So I just kind of wanted to work from there. And I had this idea because I was really loving the feedback stuff we were getting in the last sketch session. And I wanted to play with just the feedback and see what kind of weird textural washy kind of stuff we could get. So firstly, I want to take these three layers here and make them send only. Now here's our feedback effects section, and from the last sketch we had made this siphon, which I put in a wet dry, but this siphon basically has this group here, which we have a gate here pulling from that group using the audition functionality, the sidechain audition functionality. And then I've got a gate here that pulls essentially from the end of our siphon feedback effects layer. So we've got some nasty, crazy loop stuff going on. So now I want to feed these three into here. So one thing we could do, we can make an audio track and it's really easy to route into audio tracks, obviously, as I'm doing here. And then we can make the audio track go to sends only, or we could route these into a return. That's another option, and then pull from the return into a gate effects. I like using the gate. You can use the compressor or any other effects that has this extra pull out section for side chaining. So let's pull audio from 7 audio, and maybe we'll set that to in. So now we're getting audio into 7 from these 3 tracks, and I'm going to pull down the mix first and set this audition to on. So now we have these 3 essentially going into the feedback chain, which is kind of interesting. I can hear the melody coming through, the beat a little bit. Let's go ahead and, it looks like I did a little bit of work after the last sketch, so I think I added some extra pitch shifting, or I guess coarse shifting. And I'm curious to hear what a random MIDI effect will do. If I just pull up the chance, it'll probably sound really weird. So we could automate this chance and get kind of a mix between now let's pull down the resolution there. Okay, and we also need to unlink that. Let's go back to our notes. I think I had... Okay. Still looks fine to me. So we will automate this chance. So every now and then we'll get a bunch of random stuff coming through. Awesome. Whoops. Whoopsie daisy. All right, we'll call this just audio through. And now I want to hear what we get when we put a grain delay into this feedback chain. Sounding very expressive, very peculiar. Also, I want to go ahead and, usually I have this done before I get started, but some days I forget. Cool. There we go. Let's get our silly video going. This is just a clip by, I want to say the artist is Pussy Crew, and they make some pretty interesting stuff on Vimeo, and I just had pulled it into Resolume and had overlaid. I've got my own masks and grids, and yeah, I'm just using Resolume Avenue 4, pretty old version at this point, but still highly functional. The only thing I guess, well, it's not the only thing I don't like about Resolume, but one of the things is, I mean, it's a double-edged thing. It's you have to convert all the footage into DXB format to be able to run it using the GPU, but it runs pretty smoothly at that after you do that. It's a bit of legwork to get stuff set up. So But still, you can do some fun stuff, and I've got this mirrored and kind of faded and running into, so it really doesn't look, you know, you wouldn't be able to place the original clip. I like to work from other source and make my own source in 3D Studio Max, but if I'm working with other people's source, I try to remix it. I try to, you know, obscure it and abstract it as much as possible. I think that's what any artist should do. And if you work with any of these Ableton files, you know, I feel like you should do the same thing. Try to remix it. Add your own cool little touch, especially if you're going to release it. And, you know, send me a message. I'd love to hear what you do with it. Okay, so as I'm pushing this up, coming from audio through here, I'm noticing some interesting activities. And I think I want to capitalize on that. Cool. All right, let's get our little session record, clip automation record going. All right. Let's turn that off. Let's clean up our automations. Cool. And let's see what happens when we push this one up. Yep, get more of that kind of classic feedback tones. So I wanna play with some of that too. Let's go ahead and save. Haven't had a crash lately, but just in case, it's always good to save anyway. Wow, it's intense. Maybe I might have to dial that, get in there and draw and dial that one back. Alright, let's have a look. And it's interesting, some of these higher up peaks may not produce the same results ever twice, because there's so many other little automations happening concurrently, but at different loops that we've set. So let's play with the tempo. I always love to play with the tempo just to see what'll happen. Very expressive, very frenetic. Be a fun breakdown in the middle of a beat song. Some would even consider this, you know, good to go as it is, as a sculpture, a more sonic sculptural kind of. I feel like it's a bit reminiscent of that old experimental early electronic artist Stockhausen. He had some really wacky pieces that used a lot of tape and a modular, and already was a dick. Maybe even racist, or who knows, but also that he's a pretty much a total genius. Unfortunately, the two go hand in hand. Often, when people get the ego praised too much, it can really sully a person, if you ask me. It's not my favorite part about being an artist, dealing with other artists' egos, dealing with my own ego for that matter. I feel like it's a daily procedure to have to keep that thing in check. But I guess it's the struggle that makes us stronger. Yeah, I like what I'm hearing. It's definitely not so much fitting with the video. The video's got a smooth movement happening, continuous panning. we wanted to try and match up with the footage. Easy, you know, cheap tricks, as I like to often refer to them as, just pulling in, you know, the go-to ideas are the cheap tricks. It's good to have, you know. I've got a whole little booklet that I like to write down silly ideas, and I'll explore them in the downtime. It's interesting when you have a real frenetic textural section, when you introduce a drone or like a solid, long-held sustained kind of note section. It really helps, in my opinion. It feels like it grounds things. It makes all the crazy textures not feel so chaotic, and I kind of want to hear what this will sound like through our feedback system. Get some real jumps up here too. I'm hoping that's not affecting the video too much, but you know, once you start routing a lot of crazy feedback stuff, this can be, you know, you can get some unpredictable. Your CPU can start to be like, WTF, what are you doing to me? Right, so it sounded kind of cool, both going through, but also, you know, not going through. So I'm curious what this, yeah, it's almost too straight. It needs a bit of a I do love me the tremolo. That is the for me one of my hugest biggest go-tos as far as effects. I think as far as effects go, I use EQ8 probably the most, and then down from there, compression, the tremolo. So pretty much all volume shaping. I want to say EQ is volume shaping. It's, you know, shaping the volume of specific frequencies. And then reverb and delay. But I try to not have delays be super obvious, like just a static delay, you know, and you hear a sound just like echoing through it really commonplacely. I always try to, like, you know, if I'm going to have a stab going through delay, I might want to change the time every time that stab hits it, just to create a sense of motion, of evolution. But as I mentioned before, I was you know, growing up, I had a problem sitting still, so I think, and a weird obsession with detail. So I think those two combined have kind of pushed me in the directions that I am going. I don't think there's anything wrong if somebody wants to produce stuff that is, you know, more basic with sounds that, you know, don't evolve a lot. Like, I think a lot of music out there is this way. And I also like the progression of these notes being added. So I might actually explore that. You can tell when I'm trying to talk and I do something sort of unconsciously, and then the idea, the spark goes off, the light bulb goes off and then explodes or whatever. That I just lose my train of thought and cannot continue on speaking the idea or whatever I oftentimes just stop in the middle of a sentence as my CPU cycles. I feel like, you know, we have processors in our brain. We've got a speech synthesizer, you know, we've got like a creative section, and I think the speech is a part of the creative section, and I just feel like it takes way too many cycles for my taste. More rock, less talk. Yeah, sometimes I just gotta remind myself. I think I just deleted something that I kind of wanted. I think it was this little series of notes here. I definitely feel like we need more attack, and I want to turn off this retrig. So this basically means if it's the same note plays twice, it doesn't respect it as a secondary voice, so we lose our tail. Too much attack. Nice. I'm liking the combo between the lush and mysterious pad as well as this kind of meandering, nutty, yeah, sometimes a little out of control textural section, which, you know, I think we could keep tweaking on and make it more in control. Yeah, let's automate this. Let's automate everything. And I have done this before, you know, really egregious, over the top, trying to automate everything in a plugin or set. And it takes a while, and usually it gets to a point where you can't even figure out where certain sounds are coming from. It's almost overkill. And it certainly does crunch the CPU when you've got so many little automation points moving around at one time. Gosh, this headset microphone, it sounds so much better. So much clearer. I really wish I could go back somehow and redo all the other videos. But keeping it loose, keeping it, you know, focusing more on the fun playing around with sound designs and not trying to make too polished of a video. I hate to admit it, and as much as I kind of have been obsessed with quality in my own personal music, the offthesky releases, at least in the last 5 to 10 years, the obsession of polishing things up has been so intense and detailed and tedious that it pretty much is not fun. You know, this part of writing a song, the exploration, the sketching, I needed really badly to get back to this. I think I really lost sight through finishing up several albums in a row, and you know, you send the demos out. I always try to get it to you know, 60-70%, send that out, and you know, if the label says yay, then they set a date, and you know, usually it's like a year from now, 2 years from now, and then you send a bunch of those out all at once, and this is what happened to me. You end up with all these release dates, and that means you got to take that 70% done to the 100% done, or at least then I need to 100% done. But the process of getting to that point is actually so tedious and demanding. Many hours of eyes closed, you know, somewhat sensory deprivation style listening, writing of notes, you know, over and over and over again on so many different systems. I think I have about 6 different systems that I like to alternate from one to the next, and I go through them about 2 times each. So it's like 10 to 12 listens with hundreds of notes in the beginning, and then it sort of whittles down to towards the end. You know, there's maybe only like 5 to 10 notes per listening pass. This can take hours. It can take weeks. It can just be so brutal. I always have to remind myself, like, you really did like this music at one point. So this sketching, sketchsploration thing has been cathartic for me, to say the least. I hope people are actually getting anything out of it. I mean, if nothing else, like I said before, you got a bunch of free live sets to open up and explore and tweak around, and so these videos might be garbage, but at least there's not, you know, at least there's some gold to get from them. Cool. I'm kind of happy with this. I mean, in terms of, like, you know, the sort of loose goal every time of trying to create a sound that matches with the video. I just picked these videos arbitrarily, as long as they look cool. But yeah, I think we'll call it on this one. I'll let it play out a little bit, but until next time.